These are in listen-only mode.
Hello everybody, welcome to our presentation. My name is Jim Patterson from Tivity, and joining me today is Matthew Willey, also from Tivity. We'll be telling you more about our company and our offerings later in the presentation. But for today, our topic for this webinar is Managing Resource Utilization Just Got Easier with Microsoft Project Service Automation. We will discuss needs and challenges of resource management and how an integrated sales, project, and service solution can address them. Ultimately, this will provide organizations with significant improvements in performance and to the bottom line, and we will also demonstrate Microsoft Project Service Automation in action. Before we get started, we have a few quick logistics to go over with you. First off, we will not open the line for questions. All lines will be muted during the webinar. However, we will answer questions that are captured in the chat and question panel in GoToWebinar throughout today's presentation, should you have any. Also, feel free to email us directly afterwards, and we'll be happy to answer your questions as well. We will be giving you our contact information at the end of the presentation. Also, if for some reason you get distracted or pulled away during the webinar, no need to worry. We will be distributing a recording of today's presentation to all registrants following the webinar, and also a copy of the slides. So with that, let's get started with the presentation of Managing Resource Utilization Just Got Easier with Project Service Automation. So just to ground set as far as what Project Service Automation is, it is an end-to-end solution that extends the Microsoft Dynamics CRM platform to provide a single system of customer engagement for project sales, resourcing, delivering, and billing. It really is meant to be an end-to-end solution, all the way from the front end of opportunity or demand management, all the way through the project planning, resource management, and execution, team collaboration, time expenses, customer billing, and then all the analytics and integration all the way through. So the idea for services organizations, this can be the solution that manages all aspects of your operation. So what are we defining as resource management? Well, resource management defined in Wikipedia is the efficient and effective deployment and allocation of an organization's resources when and where they are needed. So that's a very general description, but very apt. Why do we even want to tackle it? Well, the benefits are to get us better resource visibility into where we're planning to put people and where people are actually doing work. Also, it's designed to increase business value, meaning if we can maximize the utilization of our employees, we can get better returns on the investment in those employees and their efforts. Ultimately, we can save time and money by not wasting time and resources on things that aren't a priority or by being inefficient with those resources. Ultimately, that'll increase our project success rates, and hopefully we can accommodate the demand better by prioritizing how we allocate resources to different things. And by implementing resource management, not just assigning everything that comes in the door, ultimately we don't have overloaded employees. We give them workloads that are commensurate with their availability and ultimately end up with employee satisfaction and definitely lower turnover. So what are the challenges of resource management? Well, today, because there's so many different work types in organizations, and here's just some of them: project management, application management and development, service management, professional services work. These are all different types of work that in a lot of organizations are being managed in disconnected systems and processes. Just some examples of some of the applications that are used to manage these things, let alone the folks that are doing them just in spreadsheets or manually. And this work is managed in parallel and sometimes competing processes. Resources have to go to multiple entry points to monitor and see what's on their plate and even feedback status, being a frustrating type of proposition. Also, it's very difficult to get an idea of what the organization's priorities are if this work is being assigned from totally different silos of information. So ultimately, having many tools for work and resources can lead to a pretty complex ecosystem of software solutions, spreadsheets, and other mechanisms to manage resources and their work. So typical resource management challenges that we find is the ownership of resources. Who really has responsibility, or in competing situations, who actually gets the resource when there's competing activities that are vying for that resource. Resource focus, what should they be making the priorities in their day-to-day work as they see a load of tasks or workload that's put on them? How do we accommodate non-project workload? How do we get visibility into what people are really working on or what they're expected to be working on? Is the disconnected system and processes that we have generating the need for us to do manual reporting, which takes a lot of time and effort that's really non-productive at the end of the day? And do we have too much information and not enough actionable decision support for what we want to do? And just tracking of the resources and see what our expenditures are on a resource case basis is something that is often a challenge. And this is just a handful of them. And it really comes down to what or where we're at from a resource management maturity perspective. There's all different dimensions to that you can look at. Some folks just plan out capacities by the roles and the resources that they have. They may just plan at a high-level capacity planning level, but the idea is that these dimensions probably are present in a lot of your organizations. Planning and tracking granularity. Are we doing high-level capacity planning of FTEs, or are we getting down to an assignment level on specific tasks and work elements in an organization? Is there an approval and negotiation in a functional and project organization or a matrixed organization? Is there a process for requesting resources and getting them allocated and approved to your project or work effort? Is there a governance and prioritization process as we allocate work so that we can know what are the most important items that are being assigned to us? And given when push comes to shove on what we should work on next, do we have a clear communication from the organization on what's most important to them? Can we see forecasted resources of what it is that we're going to spend both personally and organizationally as a whole versus collecting actually what we're spending? And what are the resultant resource costs around all that? These are dimensions that can provide great value to an organization if we do this correctly, but many organizations are doing only some of these, or in some cases not very many of these. So depending on where you're at, we'll chart the course of where you want to start. The Gartner Group has its own model of what really defines resource management maturity. And in this chart, you can see over here the different dimensions of resource capacity planning on the left, detailed resource allocation, managing human resources, team formation, and then just personal productivity. And you can see through the different maturity levels, the crawl stage, the walk stage, and the run stage as an incrementally improving sense of maturity. You'll see that organizations tackle more and more of these disciplines and components as they go on through. And by mastering these, there's pretty objective evidence that it can improve effectiveness, profitability, and other dimensions of performance in an organization if we get on the path to this improvement in this area. So in the case for resource management, let's talk about a few things. We're talking about professional services automation from Microsoft today, built on the CRM platform. And the reason it's built on that platform, it's really to offer a software solution to overall increase operational visibility and improve process efficiency in project and services-driven organizations. The net effect of a PSA solution is to really help you do this improvement and gaining in maturity. Ultimately ending up with a more productive and profitable business and improved levels of predictability and client satisfaction. By having a common system and some common standard business processes, it's really about, for today's topic, about reports, insight, and control for the resources to make sure that we're managing the resource component of delivering work and projects in a very effective manner, and be able to share that information across the organization where it's easy to find and consistently delivered. Now, in the market trends, whether or not it's because of fixed fee projects or increasingly educated and demanding client base, oftentimes some of the challenges of service organizations is that we are faced with over or underutilization of employees that lead to impacts on our profitability and our bottom line. Also, there's risks associated with inaccurate project planning and estimating based on capacities, meaning that we can overestimate and underestimate, and the consequences of those can actually impact whether or not we win business or we execute business on a profitable basis. Ultimately, we can reduce profit margins and damage client satisfaction if we don't get this part of it right. So planning accuracy and operational efficiency from a resource perspective is pretty important in order to be a high-performing and profitable organization. The key is we talked about all these disparate systems that are out there and the disconnects between those. By having a model where we integrate core business capabilities into a common solution platform, we can really provide real-time information to executives so they can adjust rapidly and adapt to changing market conditions and business conditions as we go on through, so that we don't get those inefficiencies by not having the information at our fingertips at a time where we can actually make effective change. And what's exciting now is that Microsoft Dynamics CRM is now a platform that is designed to address all types of projects and work. Oftentimes people would think of this as a Salesforce automation and customer relationship management type of system, but with the professional services or PSA integration into the mix, that's going to add the values of the things we talked about today. And also in there is capabilities for field service work, also IT case management, and just general project management is being put into the fold of Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So all of these could be different demand drivers for resource utilization or the needs for resources and understanding how to manage them. And by having them all accommodated within this CRM platform from Microsoft is very, very powerful. Also, with the integration with business intelligence or BI, Power BI can allow you to more thoroughly analyze the service portfolio and create multiple growth profit scenarios and analyze the business and look at how we're actually utilizing and expending resources. So is a PSA solution needed for your organization? Well, if disconnected spreadsheets and legacy applications are causing a lot of manual work and rework and lead to lost billable time and expense, absolutely. You know, if lack of visibility into actual time and expense is part of the mix in your organization, these are things that we can do. Better resource utilization and better capturing of time from our resources against our projects will allow us to capture billable revenue much more quickly and much more effectively. So the areas of resource utilization and the billability of those resources and the yield on our resource assets that we have within our organization are key components to really being profitable. And the bottom line, if we don't have a solution that allows us to harness this and get a handle on it, it's almost impossible to run, scale, and grow a high-quality professional services business without this kind of integrated PSA platform. So the benefits of professional services automation is as we go through the different maturity levels as we talk through, if you look at what the SPI research has done through its surveys, the top 5% of the best organization in professional services show a 31% profit on average, as opposed to the lower level 1 and level 2 organizations, which on average show a negative 2% loss for those level 1 and level 2 organizations. By striving to get better, we by default can become much more effective and much more profitable. And those specific areas, especially ones that we're going to talk about today on resource utilization, you can look as we go through those different maturity levels, how our returns and our ratios get much better with that maturity of our process and consistency of our execution on those. But employee billable utilization and average revenue per billable consultant or per employee goes up dramatically as we go through the different maturity stages. Ultimately, that ends up impacting our profitability as an organization. So good incentive for us to at least strive to get better on an ongoing basis. So with project service automation from Microsoft, there's really tools and capabilities in here that are designed to address everyone in the services and project organization, whether it be the operations officer and practice director, the account manager who is actually responsible for all things about their different accounts and clients, to the project manager who's charged with delivering projects on time and on budget and with excellent quality, the resource manager who needs to fulfill and provide resources to successfully execute on projects and other operational work, and then the team member who has to execute, the one who is getting assigned work and then has to deliver on an effective and non-frustrating basis. And then ultimately the end customer who needs to be satisfied for us to continue as a thriving organization and get us some follow-on business and referrals. So the key here is that project service automation, once again, is that end-to-end solution as we see from opportunity management all the way through billing and revenue, but also providing tools both from a mobile perspective in tablets and mobile phones. It's a cloud solution, which means it's easy to stand up and you don't need to maintain an infrastructure. And because it is cloud-based, it gives you access to have team members in these roles participate from a global perspective and have a central repository and one source of the truth. So if we look at what's in core CRM capability from Microsoft, it's all the things that we traditionally think of with accounts and contacts and opportunities and products and services and quotes and all the workflow process around that. But by adding professional services automation, all the areas in the green are added to the mix so that we can execute on projects, bill on those projects, and then get revenue in return for those projects on an effective basis. And all these areas are added by the professional services automation, including the resource management components that we're talking about today. So some of the things, as Matthew's going to demonstrate to you today in the resource management component, is effective resource capacity planning and utilization visibility and management as we go on through and be able to get the right skills and the right people on the right work at the right time. Detailed resource scheduling, the ability to go out there and do very detailed granular planning for people into specific work item elements. And then on the actual side of things, be able to capture time against these things and be able to report time on the things that we've been assigned so that our organization can bill or charge back that time as appropriate, as well as capture non-project or non-billable time as well. So these are all dimensions that are available to us through the solution, and these things can also be done through mobility. Well, hopefully that set the stage for you a little bit about what we're going to talk about today with resource management and utilization. And Matthew, I'll turn this over to you for the demonstration.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jim. All right, so I'm logged in here into Dynamics 365. Within Dynamics 365, you can see we can manage the full life cycle of a customer. We can start out all the way from the marketing side. From there, once we get our leads, those can turn into opportunities on the sales side that we can work on. Then, if those opportunities are won, that's where we start getting into the project service part where we're actually delivering something to our customers. The field service component really allows you to take ad hoc work orders and be able to act on those and staff those and fulfill those and make sure that ad hoc work out in the field is actually getting taken care of in a meaningful way. You can even do service management in here, so as those customers that you've been, implemented different products and services for, they can submit cases and you can work on those cases, all the way to even getting feedback from the customer, so the voice of the customer. So really it's a full service, customer service platform that you can start all the way from marketing and move all the way in. Today we're really going to be focusing here though on the project service part, specifically around resource management. So let's go ahead and jump right on into that. So here I'm on my resource dashboard. This is a nice dashboard that gives me a high level visibility into what's going on with my resources, who's available, what's my capacity looking like, my utilization, things of that nature. And we're going to get back into this in a little bit more detail, but let's go ahead and jump on in and see where all of this information comes from and how this all really works. So it all really starts from an opportunity. So sales is working on an opportunity, and they're trying to sell something to a customer, either an existing customer or a new customer, and from that it's going to generate if this opportunity is one, it's going to generate some needs for some resources. So what I can do here is I can come into an opportunity like my Chic CRM opportunity here. And let's say I'm working this opportunity and I've been working with the customer to figure out what we need to give them, and I've been putting together quotes. And we finally won one of these quotes. They've said, yes, that's a good quote. That's what we want. We're good to go. So I can come into that quote here, and you can see this quote is made up of different products that we're selling to that customer, as well as some services. So if I click into this service line here, we can actually see what they've purchased. And this is going to be really important when we go to staff this project, because we need to know what did they buy from a resource perspective, from a services perspective. So we can see there's some different phases to this project, and for each of those phases we're going to need different roles. We're going to need a project manager, architects, technical consultants, and they've purchased a certain amount of hours. So this is going to help us from a resource management perspective. So now flipping into the project, so once this quote is won, it'll create a related project to that particular quote and opportunity. So we're now taking a look at that project and some of the information around that project. And under my sales section here, I can see that contract and that quote. And so as I come in as the project manager, this project gets assigned to me. Hey, I'm your project manager now of this project. We just won this opportunity. And kind of connecting the sales and the delivery teams together there in that sense. Now I can come in, I can review that quote, and using the information in that quote, I can then figure out what my work breakdown structure needs to be, at a high level, build out my plan basically. So I come in, I have different stages or phases of my particular project here, and I have my roles assigned to those different phases, and I can kind of mirror that quote somewhat and maybe build it into more detail if I choose to, but really use that as a starting place to start coming in and figuring out at a high level what resource roles am I going to need and for what stages and for how many hours and things of that nature, right? From there, I can then figure out, okay, who is actually going to do that work, right? Right now we're just at the generic resource part of this, but I can actually go and then look at the team and figure out who are actually going to get to do this particular pieces of work. So I've done that already for some of my different resources here, but you can see here I have a generic resource still listed for my functional consultant, and I need to go actually find a functional consultant who can do this work within that period of time, who's available to make sure that we're utilizing our resources properly as well. To do that, I can either click here and say submit a request, and that'll send a request over to the appropriate resource manager. They can then see a list of all their requests and come in and figure out who's available and fulfill that. And we'll show you what that looks like. Or as the project manager, if we don't really have the resource manager type of role within our organization, if it's more kind of up to a project manager to go find the available resources and such, then right from here I can say hard book. And that's going to pop open my resource booking view here, which is the same type of a view the resource manager could use to find the right resources and approve them from the requests as well. So either way, then you come into here, and notice it's already filtering for functional consultants. So we're just looking at functional consultants here. We can see who's available by week or by month, depending on how I want to look at this here, and look at different periods of time and so on and so forth. And from there, I can then even filter this down more by going into my skills and saying, I need someone who has .NET experience, for example. I can select that, hit apply. It's going to filter this down more. I want someone actually who's really proficient in .NET and say apply. It'll filter that down even more. So I have two resources here that have the right role, the right skills. They're available in this period of time, I can see, or they don't have anything assigned to them actually in this period of time yet. And if I hover over them, it'll give me even more information around the other different skills they have, what their availability is, what their utilization target is, things of that nature, right? So Catherine looks good. She's available. She has the right skills. Great. I'm going to go ahead and say book. And then when I do that, that's what's going to then switch out that generic resource with this named resource. And from that point, they'll get notified, hey, you've been assigned to these tasks and you're on this project team. And they can go in and then they can actually see the different things that are assigned to them and the projects that they've been booked on. So switching over to more as a team member, I'm coming in now and I'm going into my bookings and tasks here, and I can see that I've been booked to work on a particular project for a certain period of time and for so many hours and such. And then here are all the different tasks that I'm expected to be working on for that project. So I have one place to go where I can always see all of my work that I need to be doing and for how long have I been booked for that project. And I can update status on those tasks right from here, percent complete, remaining hours, things of that nature, and update the different status on my tasks. Later on at the end of the week, I can come in and I can put in my time then on that. So if I go into my time entries here, I can then come in and I can put in time on the different projects that I've been working on. So, we're kind of going through that whole resource motion of I've been booked on a particular project, I start working on it, I update my status, I put in my time, and from there, the project manager is getting all those updates of status and time and so on and so forth. So flipping back to more of a project manager, if I come back into my projects view here, I have a in-progress project, which I can go to, and we can come and we can see status of that project and really what's going on. So I'll come here to say my phones project, and in that particular project, I can switch here to my project status report page. And what that's going to allow me to do is, as the project manager, go, okay, estimated hours are this. We've actually spent this many hours. Here's how many is remaining, right? This is all rolling up from that team member providing status and putting in their time and things of that nature, right? So we can see all this information, costs, and all kinds of things, issues and risks, and all of this rolling back up to that project, based off of the status that's being provided and the time that's being put in, and so on and so forth. So. Also, more from a resource manager or a department manager, someone of that nature, there are lots of other kind of reports and tools that we can use to get visibility into resources and what's going on. While all this is happening, while we're booking resources and while people are putting in their time and all of that, we can go to places like the resource availability view. The resource availability view allows me to look across all resources, or I can come here and I can filter out and I can just look at specific resources. I just want to look at specific teams or roles or people with certain skills or whatever it might be, and I can see who's available and who's not. If they're red, they're over allocated in that particular period of time, so on and so forth, and there's different color coding for what the different areas mean, but it gives me a nice heat map so I can really quickly see what's going on. I can see Christy's over allocated. Well, what is she working on? And I can expand into her, and I can see the 2 projects that Christy said to be working on and the amount of hours she said to work each week. And we can start to figure out if maybe there's someone else available who's the right role and such that we could switch that to or get to help her out, maybe to make sure that we're not over allocating our resources. As Jim was talking about earlier, that can cause problems with just employee satisfaction in general, as well as put your project schedules at risk because they don't have enough time to get the work done when it's supposed to be gotten done. So there's a lot of cool things you can do in here, and you can search and you can look at it by week or by month and sorting and all types of things. It's a really good place just to get a general idea of who's available, who's over allocated, things of that nature. Then more from a resource utilization perspective, we can come in and we can look at who's not meeting their utilization requirements. So we want to make sure that our resources are billing hours to customers because that's how we generate dollars as a services organization, right? We want to make sure that people are making their targets. Let's say in this case, a lot of our resources targets are 75%. And so I can come in and I can actually hover over them and it'll show me that target there is 75%. And in certain weeks, it looks like Ashley's set to meet her targets and is doing good. Into the future, we may not have scheduled her for work yet or whatever it might be, so it's not looking so good, but it's our job to come in here, monitor this, and make sure that we're breaking up the work and we're keeping the work inflowing so that we can make sure to keep people making their utilization requirements here. So that's really a very important view that can be used to get a good idea of how that's doing very quickly. There are also, though, lots of different reports and dashboards that can be utilized to come in and be able to see resource utilization, resource availability, all sorts of resource information, and be able to get a little bit more analytical around that. So if I come in here into my resource status dashboard, I can see, as we looked at earlier when we very first started the demo, I can see kind of a high level of what's going on around availability, work versus capacity, committed versus planned versus actual hours, things of that nature. But if I click on any one of these, it'll then drill me into that report so I can get a little bit more analytical. I can start chopping and cutting and filtering and drilling in and drilling out and then all of these useful things to get focus in on the information I want and then get more detail around it. So if I want to focus in on some specific information, I can come here and say, drop this down and look at my position role. I just want to see my project managers and my support and maybe my developers, something of that nature. So you can come in and kind of filter down to specific roles or specific portfolios or departments, specific people, whatever it might be, right? Filter this information down so we're just looking at the set of resources and the set of information that you want to see. From there, we can start to drill into these different tabs and focus in on things like resource utilization. So what this shows me is over time, this is the amount of capacity that all the resources I have selected have. So we can give them up to this much work. Down below, it shows me the amount of work that's scheduled in each color as a particular person in this chart. And so we can see that we're not scheduling nearly enough work. We're not utilizing our resources enough. If this here was way over that line, we would know that we're over allocating our resources, and that's not good as well, as we mentioned before. So it's a really nice over time report to be able to look into that. If you're more interested in availability and whose availability and which roles are more available and not and things of that nature, I can see here by role who's available, support, project managers, developer, how available they are. But then as I mentioned, you can drill into most of these visuals. So I can come in and click on, say, my support role and drill in and then see all of my support people and how available or not each one of those support people are individually. So you can kind of drill in and drill out to the level that you want to be able to see. This next report here is a nice one as well. What it's showing me is we initially built our resource plan. That was our booking for that resource and said, hey, we think we're going to need this resource this amount of time for this period of time. Then we went and maybe built out a more detailed project schedule, which is more like our forecasted work, and that's this green line here. And then they put in their timesheet hours later, and that's this guy here. And we can compare those to each other and see how we're doing from a planning perspective. Hopefully, our bookings are fairly in line with our project schedule. And then hopefully when people put in their time, that's fairly in line. We can see here, they're not spending nearly as much time as what we planned, so we can start to figure out what's going on there. That's not good because we're not making dollars because we're not charging enough hours. If it's the opposite and we're spending way more time than what we planned, that's not good either because we didn't do a very good job planning, and that can cause lots of issues down the line. So lots of different reports from a resource perspective that allow you to figure out where your resources are, cut and chop and filter that up and figure out what's going on. If you're more focused just on straight actual hours, like timesheet hours, the hours people have been putting into their timesheets, there's a full dashboard for that as well, and where you can go into this and see hours by quarter and hours by period, and there's compliance reports built in here and so on and so forth. Lots of different great reports there from an actual time and a resource management standpoint. So hopefully you can see how you can manage the whole resource management process all the way from when the sales opportunity is won or getting close to one. We can start planning our resources up front and try to get a head start on that so it doesn't take us too long to get our resources and the customer has to sit around waiting to be able to start up that project, which also helps us to start recognizing revenue quicker as well. And then managing through that whole process, making sure people are utilized, make sure we're not overbooking people, and getting visibility into all that, as well as allowing the team member to have visibility in what they're supposed to be working on. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Jim for just a few more closing slides, and then we'll let you guys go for the day. There you go, Jim.
Thank you, Matthew. That was a very enlightening demonstration. Let's talk a little bit in summary and wrap up. Hopefully you've seen today just some dimensions on the resource management side why implementing a PSA solution can be one of the most impactful decisions your organization will make, and the resource management piece of that is just one dimension of the many benefits that you will receive. Most organizations that have adopted PSA have seen dramatic improvements in efficiency, collaboration, and quality, all the things that make a thriving organization. And by not chasing down the information and being reactive to everything, having a system that puts this under control frees up your management, finance, and operations to focus on running the business and not just reacting to the business. Also, accurate and timely information and one source of the truth is critical for things like regulatory reporting and just general operational performance improvement. Real-time visibility into the kinds of information we're talking about here in PSA can mean the difference between low and high profitability. If you can't see what's happening, you can't respond to what's happening and be your most effective. Also, be able to anticipate and respond to changing conditions can both make you and save you a lot of money as an organization, and resource management is definitely one component that can have a strong impact to the bottom line. So who are we that we're demonstrating this today? We're a company called Tivity, and we're a full-service project and business management solution provider. We're a gold-certified Microsoft partner and a cloud solution provider. And we're designated as what's called a P-seller by Microsoft, which means we are at the hip of the Microsoft field sales team and helping them bring these solutions to market and making sure that the customers are effective in deploying these solutions. We've been doing this for well over 20 years. We offer pre-built solution application deployments to get you a quicker time to solution. And it's a low-risk proposition these days because we're deploying these things on the Microsoft cloud with a software as a service or infrastructure as a service approach. And we provide as a one-stop shop all the professional services, education and training, customer success and support ongoing, and any consulting around business optimization to get the most out of these solutions from a process perspective as well as a solutions perspective. And on the education side, we help people with our Learning University for ongoing training along the way. You know, we don't have to necessarily put these in place with a very large consulting engagement. We have our pre-configured environments that can get best practices put in place for these very quickly with very low investment and short duration implementation time. We also have kickstart implementations which take that base and allow through a questionnaire process to do some of the more common modifications that are unique to making it specific to your organization, have that done very quickly. And for those organizations that have to be highly tailored by the nature of the way they do work, we offer that as well, and we can offer very robust configuration services around that as well. But the idea, it's not a one-size-fits-all. There's something out there for everybody, and I think we can help. We have other webinars. We do these on an ongoing basis. On October 20th, we're doing Project Financial Management in Project Online, which exciting stuff with a project financial planner to add detailed budgeting and cost tracking capabilities within the project management realm. If you want to look at our list of webinars, both on demand that have already been pre-recorded and the ones that are coming up, just go to tivity.com/webinars and you can register for those as you see fit. Also remember, from a special offer from Tivity, if you're interested in what you're hearing today and want to investigate the possibility of putting PSA in place for yourself as an organization, we're happy to give you a free PSA assessment and then offer a potential roadmap based on where you're at and meeting you where you're at and putting you on the road to growth and maturity in that process. And we can even help assist you in getting up a free trial of project service and support you through the process. You can reach out to us at info@tivity.com, and we're happy to schedule a live one-on-one demo and maybe do a deeper dive into some other areas of this if you're interested for your organization. You can reach us at any of these three websites. We have different targeted messaging on each of those for these different areas. And feel free to reach out to me directly, Jim Patterson at jpatterson@tivity.com, or Matthew Willey, who's our product guru, mwilly@tivity.com. We'll be sending you these slides along with the recording of the presentation. So with that, I'd like to just thank you for your time and attention today, and hopefully you got some value out of what you heard today. Thank you and have a great day.